November 24th, 1971. A quiet man walked into an airport, bought a one-way ticket, and boarded a flight from Portland to Seattle. He looked like an ordinary businessman. Calm, polite, forgettable. But before the day was over, he would hijack an airplane, collect $200,000 in ransom money, jump into a storm at 10,000 feet, and disappear forever. More than 50 years later, nobody knows who he was. The man called himself Dan Cooper. He arrived at Portland International Airport shortly before boarding Northwest Orient Flight 305. Witnesses described him as being in his mid-40s. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, and a black tie. Nothing about him seemed unusual. He paid cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle. Then, he quietly took his seat near the rear of the aircraft. To everyone around him, he appeared completely normal. Nobody could have guessed what was about to happen. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a folded note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was a phone number. She slipped it into her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned closer. "Miss, you'd better read that note." The message was chilling. It claimed he had a bomb. When Schaffner sat beside him, Cooper opened his briefcase. Inside were red cylinders connected by wires. Whether it was a real bomb remains unknown. But at that moment, nobody was willing to take the risk. Cooper remained calm. He did not shout. He did not threaten passengers. He simply made his demands. $200,000 in cash, for parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. Authorities quickly realized they had no choice. As the aircraft circled above Seattle, law enforcement gathered the ransom money. The passengers had no idea that one of the most famous crimes in history was unfolding around. After landing, the money and parachutes were delivered. Cooper released all passengers and several crew members. Then he ordered the plane back into the air. The aircraft took off once again. Outside, darkness covered the Pacific Northwest. Rain lashed against the aircraft. Winds reached dangerous speeds. Yet Cooper appeared completely unfazed. At approximately 8:13 p.m., something unusual happened. Instruments detected movement near the rear staircase. Cooper had lowered the stairs while the plane was still flying. Then, carrying the ransom money and a parachute, he stepped into the storm and jumped into darkness, into freezing rain, into one of the most dangerous wilderness regions in the United States. Nobody saw him land. Nobody heard from him again. The FBI launched one of the largest investigations in its history. Agents searched forests, rivers, and mountains. Hundreds of suspects were examined. Thousands of leads were investigated. But no trace of Cooper appeared. No parachute. No body. No confirmed sighting. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Then, in 1980, nearly 9 years later, a young boy made a startling discovery. While digging along the Columbia River, he uncovered bundles of cash buried in the sand. Investigators checked the serial numbers. They matched Cooper's ransom money. The discovery raised even more questions. How did the money get there? And what happened to the man who took it? Some investigators believe Cooper died during the jump. The weather was brutal. The terrain below was unforgiving. Others argue that Cooper was highly trained, perhaps a former paratrooper. Perhaps someone with military experience. They believe he survived and lived the rest of his life under a different identity. More than 50 years later, neither theory has been proven. Today, the mystery remains unsolved. The FBI officially closed its active investigation in 2016. No one has been conclusively identified as D.B. Cooper. No arrest was ever made. And the man who stepped out of a plane into a stormy night remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Who was D.B. Cooper? Did he survive? Or did he disappear forever into the darkness below? We may never know. This is based on a real historical event involving D.B. Cooper